And welcome back. Where we left off last time in Victoria 3 as the Great Qing. Over the break, I went ahead and did merge up the armies. I tend to keep sort of two um, home front armies and one expeditionary army. Because with China, it's fairly easy to overwhelm our convoys with army movements, which then screws up the imports-exports. And with that, I think we're in a good position. Again, I am still probably going to move on trying to pass dedicated policing pretty early on. Let's work a little bit farther through our construction sectors before we do that, so get the bureaucracy being built. I suppose because this is going to be a boring standpoint, so we'll probably speed through it quickly. I'm actually not all that interested in early game with the mortality reduction, because we haven't quite built the industry construction up to employ the people, so we don't necessarily want to lower the mortality. Instead, we're going to go with greater loyalty from them. Less pushback as we change things going forward. And we're suppressing the absolutists and bolstering the peasants. This will make it a little bit easier to pass our reforms. Money the Emperor, we might as well accept it. That's going to cause a little bit of unrest. Tech spread wise, production is almost always going to spread contingent, so we won't manually reswitch contingent ourselves. We got a little bit lucky here, and then it's going for mandatory service. Would have been any of the two. If it goes paddle steamers, that would delay getting to light infantry. And then over here, we got lucky in that it picked stock exchange. Again, it could pick any of them, any of the 7. And stock exchange and romanticism are actually the 2 lucky choices that it could pick that would accelerate our research. And as we build up our construction, it helps build the construction faster. Land reformer. Nice. That'll help with our tax and land reform changes. Oh, interesting. If they pressure the petit bourgeoisie, I could potentially replace the traditionalist with it. Not so sure, because we got a traditionalist emperor. If I'll be able to do that, though. We'll grab the early on. Anyway, so this is a good time to, as we're now just about to complete those things, let's quickly do a reform of the government, bring you and you in. Managing to maintain righteous government there is nice. And then we start with dedicated priests, which we've got a 70% chance of cycling each time, so that should be a nice good start. Get that going. And because we're doing that, we're temporarily getting middle managers, 10% more bureaucracy. That's still not going to be enough bureaucracy, so when we run out of construction sectors to build, that is what we're going to start building, is we're going to build more bureaucracy. And initially we're hoping to be wanting to try to maximize our economies of scale in various places. I believe our economy scale max is 10 right now, because we have neither shift work, which is 20, or mechanical workshops, 10. So it goes up to 50, it starts at 20, we only have 20. So for the moment, we're basically going to backfill many of our buildings to get them up to 20 to maximize their economy of scale throughput. I'm going to be a little bit selective on that, just both to maximize the amount of bureaucracy we get from them, to maximize the amount of taxation capacity from them. We're going to first level them up to 20 before we start going around upgrading them more. Sure. Demands action. They want us to embargo them. Can I embargo them when I got a treaty with them? That's a good question. If I can, I probably will. One problem with Victoria 3 windows being so big. Is they get in the way of seeing things. Diplomatic actions, embargo. I can't embargo. So we'll look into this. Cycle in a moment to make sure it's ticked in, and then we'll hit embargo. Get the appeasement of that faction. And we're losing a little bit of money right now, but that's mostly the diplomatic backs kicking in. We got a couple million stockpiled up, so that's not a problem. So, there's a couple different law changes that we're going to do early on, which is why we're building a lot of bureaucracy. One of them is moving dedicated police. The other one is traditionalism lowers bureaucracy population cost multiplier. So moving off traditionalism will also cause us to go into a bureaucracy deficit. Oops, I'm at the point. Well, I suppose I could stop building bureaucracy. No, we need the bureaucracy. So keep building more bureaucracy. Let's sort by unemployed first. So places with the most unemployment that don't have 20 bureaucracies, we're going to start with building more government bureaucracy. Each of these provides about 5,000 jobs. So building the 8th there is going to provide 40,000 more jobs, which will help suppress the unemployment. Ah yes, the art of doing nothing. And yeah, dedicated police is really easy to pass, because basically no one opposes it. The rural folk oppose it, but they're not all that unhappy, so we're just going to roll with that. There's no opposing movements. Okay, I think it's time to pick the next government location, which is Eastern Guangdong. There's dedicated police, and you'll see the bureaucracy went negative. We wanted to start building bureaucracy before we passed it, but we'll still need to build some afterwards. And now, government-wise, we're not going to do any more law passes right away. If you wanted to go to a more conservative playstyle, your starting government here is mostly traditionalist, so you could move from freedom of conscience to state religion, and from cultural exclusion to national supremacy if you wanted to, fairly easily. I'm not going to, but those are options that are open to you. That would give you more authority if you wanted it. We could also go to National Guard pretty easily, but that's going to be more bureaucracy. Though this has some nice effects like more conscription rate and minimizing the effects of a bunch of arts conditions, which maybe wouldn't be that bad for your playstyle. Apparently people would support those. There's quite a bit of opposal to this for migration controls. Who's actually in opposition? The rural folk. Okay, we'd actually be pissing the rural folk off with that, so let's not do that right away. And then we could go to consumption-based taxation. We're not going to go to consumption-based taxation. We ideally want to skip over to proportional, which we don't have the tech for yet. So we're basically just waiting for a grain tech, so we can swap to Agrarianism. And then with our agitators, could I promote you? Grant leadership. No, because your movement is not pressuring them yet. Okay. Though that is saying that it's not necessarily... I'm not going to be prevented from doing it. I just need to wait until you're pressuring that group. What I think... Oh no, it's the exile. The exile one requires them to not be too similar to that ruler. I thought a ruler was traditionalist. Yeah, the ruler is traditionalist. I'm surprised we're allowed to exile... Oh no, we're allowed to exile him. We're not allowed to exile this guy. This guy we can't get rid of. We can promote if his faction's being pressured. Okay. But we can't exile him. The old way would be you'd get a very popular military leader and then exile the head of the faction, so the military leader would take over. But that's no longer possible. Yeah, our taxes are down because we have tax waste. So we need to get those bureaucracies fixed. A royalist I don't care about, or a traditionalist I don't care about. Yeah, let's fight. The traditionalist type. So we can send him abroad. We don't actually want to, so we'll press this button. Increase the power, hopefully, of the peasant movement. We can check to see if they did kick in. Radical new approach. Yeah, so that got us another 10% power on them. Anti-country versus Spain? Sure, we can be mean to Spain. Well, I say we're going to be mean to Spain. I'm probably not going to be mean to Spain. We got more important things to do than be mean to Spain. Okay, there's Romanticism. So with Romanticism, we're going to immediately... actually, let's check right away. Can we do... grant leadership? No. Could grant you command, so we might do that. And just promote you a couple times. And we'll give a couple week tick to see if that has given you enough to pressure. Right now it's only pressuring the rural folk. But the rural folk already support everything we want to do with that group, so that's fine. We'll cycle 2 weeks and see if it changes anything. The answer is probably no. No. Okay. Well, time to reform the government, so you're out, rural folk are in. Yeah, so bringing them in, bring the PD villagers in, unless I think the land reformer here is going to be able to become the leader, it's going to make a difference. And then we can move to Agrarianism, which is opposed, and this is why we're suppressing the absolutist movement, because they're the only people that have actually opposed it, and they're not very strong, because we're suppressing them, so this should be an easy pass. Though, again, as we got a bureaucracy deficit, that's what we're going to be focusing on building, is a bunch of bureaucracy to deal with the fact that we're constantly making the bureaucracy problem worse in the early game. And yeah, working on this. When the open crisis clears, we'll be in a much stronger situation than we were before, because our army will actually have some spine to them. Yes, they support their independence. No. Yeah, like, we're gonna care about our armies. Nope. We're gonna take the 5% bonus to passing it. And in fact, because we don't have enough activism on absolutism, we don't have a stall chance here. There's nothing that's going to stop our passing it. It's just going to be how quickly it passes at this point. And arguably, we don't want it to pass too quickly, otherwise we're going to have bureaucracy problems. Time for more government admin. And to be fair with most of this government admin, because we're building in places where we have unemployed people, we're not decreasing taxes, because that's usually what ends up happening early game as you build stuff, if you're on land taxes, is promoting people from peasants to non-farmer jobs tends to reduce your taxes. And we're not doing that. We're promoting unemployed people to non-farmer jobs. You expect us to pass for racial segregation. I could do that. Don't want to do that. And okay, this is going to piss the rural folk off, but I could probably just eat that. We got enough legitimacy that we can just eat this. Yeah. We're going to eat the minus. We're not going to keep the rural folk in government for very long, They're going to pass 2 laws, and then we're going to kick them out. Right, they're going to pass agrarianism, and they're going to pass homesteading, and then we're going to kick them out of government. So I don't mind too much that we're pissing them off a little bit in the short run. Oops, I think I should pick the other option. Whoops, daisy. It doesn't make a big difference. Okay, there's our stock exchange. So that's 10% more market access impact. Similar to Agrarianism, right? That's going to be getting us more more mappy. Traditionalism has a minus 15% mappy, so it's about 2/3 of traditionalism swap. Okay, and initially from the society tree, those are the 2 main ones from society. We're now going to want to pop over here and look where we are. Would be actually a little bit too early to come over here, I think. Could do colonization, would be a little early for colonization. Ooh, I'm stuck in a situation. So normally the swing shot in here is you start on atmospheric engines, and I might as well start on atmospheric engines, is what we'll do. So atmospheric engines here is costing more. I'm gonna swap over the tooltip will pop up so we can see it. We're going to pay, in theory, 5,000 extra for being 2 techs missing from Era 1. If we watch it and wait until it gets about 2/3 full, which will be like 3 years in, we can stop researching it, complete these 2 techs, and then very rapidly complete atmospheric engines, which is going to be the plan, I think. The other alternative, which I was maybe thinking of doing, was for military, if it was spreading to paddle steamers instead of mandatory service, we'd work on mandatory service instead, because line infantry, colonization, and railways are our main 3 next goals, tech-wise. Opium smugglers, we're going to grab more authority. And because we've been bolstering the peasant movement, we can see they're quite significant power-wise. They're currently not helping on our current tech. Okay, they don't care about Agrarianism, but we're not in opposition to Agrarianism. Okay, we still want more government admin. Again, prioritizing places with unemployment first for the building. We're getting pretty close with bureaucracy. Well, and we're about to have agrarianism. Well, it's less so that agrarianism causes us to have a bureaucracy shortage, and more not having traditionalism causes a bureaucracy shortage. Traditionalism is bad, but at the same time it has a good effect on it. Pros and cons. We can see the problem with having aristocrats as your major ecotype is they tend to like to build in your private queue things like farms, which we don't really want this early game. So that's an interesting flag of the United States of America. Presidential dictatorship. Okay. America does America, thanks. Oops, I stopped paying attention for a moment and are not building a government admin. Yeah, we are losing a little bit of money. A couple different ways we can try to fix that. Actually, one thing we can do is we can actually raise a consumption tax. Even though we have opium banned, we're allowed to tax opium, for example. So we'll do that. Gives us a little bit of taxes. We're not actually going to use our military right now, so we can drop the military wages. Could probably drop the government wages as well. Yeah. There we go. There's most of the deficit dealt with. Who needs to pay your government? Like, that has economic impacts, but those economic impacts are not super major. we're about to finish Agrarianism, and so subject, we need to keep expanding our bureaucracy. The bureaucracy must expand to meet the needs of the ever-growing bureaucracy, because that's every game with bureaucracy. Though, to be fair, once we have Agrarianism complete, we'll know what our early game bureaucracy needs are, and we can swap over to building construction goods. End of the opium crisis. So you get two options. One is reduce mortality for 20 years and a bunch of radical and loyalist reductions. Well, improvements and reductions. Or we can insert the sovereignty of the realm, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to take 20% authority, 20% influence, and 20 legitimacy, which will basically make our future governments all be righteous, even if they're somewhat unideal ones like the rural folk here. It can also give us enough to do levy another tax, so we levy tax on liquor. And we just got 20,000-ish more revenue, because we're not basically paying it to the British anymore. So let's raise our wages a little bit. Raise the military wages back again. That way I don't forget the start of the next war. And we are slowly sliding towards our first real war. One thing I could do, subjects, not quite there with Korea. What I was thinking with Korea is we could drop it to vassal state, but we're not there yet. Give it a little bit more time. There we go. Agrarianism complete. So I think we need to take another week. There we go. We can see how bad our bureaucracy is. That's where our bureaucracy is going to be for a while, as far as bad is concerned. Is our peasant motion now... Nope, still only pressuring the rural folk. Oh well. So our next thing we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get off serfdom. Homesteading. Why do we have such a large stall chance? Because that would make the scholar officials angry. Interesting. Did I have to do this in the past in multiple steps? I remember doing this before. It's not too hard to do. Yeah, I might have had to do it in 2 steps. Otherwise we'll have to pass something else that they like. Which that wouldn't be too hard to do. You know, I'm just going to try passing it, because I don't think they're actually going to stand in the way. We'll see. Anyway, completing some techs. Not quite where we want to stop an atmospheric engine. If we cycle a couple weeks, we can see... Okay, they went to battle steamers, so let's do line infantry instead. See if these scholar officials will come down a little bit. I was just significantly reduced the setback chance. I say that as we still got a setback chance. But, you know, that happens. Why am I not getting... Why am I getting no success chance from the peasant move? It should be giving me a success chance. Interesting. Maybe because I have the rule of open government. That might make sense. Lost being built a little bit too long. Government admin's not being built. We are getting close to not needing to invest any more in government admin. That might actually be what we need. That's what we need. Oh, if we get another stall event, I might temporarily go over to just doing tenant farming. Nope, move consideration, that's good. From the ground up. He's doing his job. There we go. Basically covering the bureaucracy issues. Before I forget, one thing we should be doing is... just going on, please. Put them to the top. Privatize everything, please. Doesn't make a big difference, but it makes a little difference. No, we got a little bit lucky there and got another tick over to completing Homestead. We'll see if Homestead actually completes. Okay, so we're back in the bureaucracy positive. And arguably, well, I should probably rate... Well, no, we could probably run on terrible government wages, I suppose. Who cares about prestige? We're the Qing. We're being held back by the fact we're not recognized, not by the fact that we have terrible prestige. There we go. Yeah, we have the... Even with the government wages on minimum, we have the second highest prestige, just because of how big we are. Gross domestic product, being lead producer, and lots of goods. Yeah. Okay, so... Let's think. We probably want to build more construction capacity. About 15, I'm thinking. Something like that. And then we'll work on lowering costs. Probably in paper. Paper, wood, that sort of stuff. Homesteading completed. Okay, that works. Are there any other laws that like we want to get off of? Want to get under proportional, but that's not happening anytime soon. I think that's actually all the early laws that I want to pass. So let's just go to the most stable government. Well, that would be a stable government. Might bring in the army. Yeah, because the army supports proportional. You support proportional. Okay. Make that the coalition government. This is going to be the next one for stuff that we want to pass. It's going to be a little while out because we need to research some text before that, but... So, line infantry, colonization, we can go get recognition. We want to work towards railways, but we basically don't want to research lathe. And once we get those 3 done, and recognition, we'll be off to rapidly industrializing the country. I have a feeling, well, to be fair, this is because of all the farms going locally owned. Like this half the local workforce has no half of it, so we're making a lot less taxes side effect. With that, let's not expand the construction sector just quite so quickly. Stop the construction sector expansion. What are our high cost goods? Paper! Not unsurprising. We have an available decision. What's the decision? Just click the button to go to the decision, it doesn't take me there. We can remove the ban on opium. Okay, we're not going to do that. How short are we on paper? Probably should do paper construction. Yeah, it's just 1.5 thousand shortage of paper. Might be worth building some paper. And we basically kind of want paper everywhere, because we're going to want bureaucracy almost everywhere. A little bit of paper everywhere. Domestic, of course. So we're looking at the employment here, so there's not an unemployment problem here, but we know there's enough peasants to support it, so we'll do it anyway. Let's sort by job seekers, make sure we're getting the really big job-seeking provinces. Okay, I think that's a good start. So we'll get those paper makers done. That should hopefully lower our government upkeep by quite a bit. It's going to slow our real sort of construction down a little bit because these are fairly expensive buildings, right? These are 600 construction cost buildings versus the 200 something we were building before. But they're going to help lower the government costs while raising taxes a little bit. Because we do earn a little bit from income tax. What does the absolution movement oppose? They don't oppose my tax laws, so I can probably stop suppressing these guys to get our authority back for more taxes. Yeah, so I think the historical data here, I think the first point is a little bit wrong, because the first point is old historical data that's been pre-calculated for a bunch of nerfs to things like subsistence farms. We haven't necessarily been going up very much, because we've been building mostly government buildings like bureaucracy and construction. But we should hopefully see, as we continue to play, our GDP start to rise rapidly at this point. So we got the early laws done. We are at some point going to want a swap over to laissez-faire. But as you can see, the rural folk were opposed to it, and the people that would actually support the change are the industrialists, and, you know, the industrialists, who are currently a marginalized group in the country. So we have to demarginalize them first. and or we need to trigger the corn laws. Whichever is easier to do, it's usually how to go about doing it. On the other hand, I would like to wait on the corn laws until we're able to do commercialized agriculture as well. So ideally, when we override the industrialists. I paused for a reason. I'm forgetting the reason I paused. Oh, I remember. Building registry, and... Okay, we got the paper mills being privatized already. Bureaucracy is higher than it should. I feel like it should be. Might have been that we didn't have all government bureaucracy filled up yet. Gold rush. Spread the word. Oh, that's one of the ones over here, I think. Tuva, no. This little province. Well, it's gold, so subsidize it. So gold's one of those buildings where it's interesting. It's maybe not necessarily the most profitable for the workers, but because it has a minting effect on it, it's usually worth you as the government putting money into it to get the minting. What a ridiculous thing to say. But it's the thing he's saying, so there you go. Our struggle is an international one. Okay, so we've got line infantry. So let's get colonization done so we can start stuff against Russia. Another thing to do is, now is the time. Go with your armies. Please upgrade everything. Buy or else. Sure, you can be mean to, well, you can imply that we should be mean to Japan. Now we have a shortage in guns, because of course we have a shortage in guns. Let's put some of our import capacity to buying guns. Now we're gonna go to war with Russia. Oh, is it imported from Russia? Suppose now that we're out of crisis, we can go ahead and use our declared interest. Let's get interest on France. Okay, looking at the time, this is probably a good place to put the part break in. So if you're watching on YouTube, I think this is where we're going to go ahead and end the stream. So there may not be another part up for you tomorrow, or there may be. It depends on if I get around to recording tomorrow. If I get around to recording tomorrow, my tomorrow, not your tomorrow, then there will be one for you tomorrow because, yes, because that will be in your past. If you're watching on Twitch, this is not one of our regularly planned streams. This is going to be whenever I have free time, recording-wise. We will pick up from where this left off. In the next part is when we're going to go get our recognition from the Russians. I've done this before, so I have no misunderstanding upon our capacity to succeed with that. One thing we're going to do, however, is, this is one of the reasons I just put the declared interest on France, is the person we're going to sign up with to negotiate our recognition is France. So we're going to make France like us, and we're going to punish the Russians. It's basically the plan. But we'll do that early next episode. So that's the plan for the next recording. When the next recording happens, not got that worked out. So if you're watching, you can probably expect there to be another part up. This is a situation where it may make sense to actually subscribe if you want to find the next part. Because while I am going to put this all in a playlist, it's going to end up in the playlist when it gets made. So I hope you've all been enjoying. If you've been watching this far along, we've gotten through a lot of the early stumbling blocks, right? So we're on homesteading, so our pops can start to migrate up to some of these empty states. And are we actually getting some migration? We are already getting some migration up here. Right, so that's going to help our empty states up in the boondocks filling up. Some of them aren't going to get very much, like this one isn't getting any right now. Because, well, in this case, that one isn't the desert. But the desert ones are not going to get much because that's not a super great place for them to live. But yeah, we are getting some migration in case in some places we're getting negative migration. But that should help a little bit with getting people out to places where jobs may be. At the same time, we're starting to try to lower the government costs so we can actually focus more on expanding our construction. Not necessarily focusing on efficient construction per se, right? It would be a little bit more cost-effective to be on the iron frame rather than the wooden frame. But we have wood everywhere to some degree. We have fabric everywhere. We don't have iron everywhere, right? And so it's until we get railways going, and more importantly under railways is the atmospheric engine and mechanical tools. Once we get those going, it'll be a little bit more tempting to swap back over to iron frame, which is kind of going to be the plan at that point. So I hope you've all been enjoying it. This is where I'm going to go ahead and end the part and end the stream. So until next time, wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part and in the next stream. And bye for now.